This is a story of a man that wandered. He was a 19 year old boy that was raised in the suburbs, and his father was a contractor and property manager for condominiums. And he bought a farm because the boy was lost. He quit school and he didn't know what to do with his life. And his father wanted to get his head out of his ass, so he bought 5 horses. And the the guy did not know what to do. He didn't know a thing about horses. He told his father that, and one of the horses stomped on his foot and almost broke his toe. And he cursed and moaned and bitched. And he said, "Dad, I'm not cut out for this. I don't know what I'm doing." And he said, "You'll get the hang of it. Just stick with it." And he did stick with it. And he learned to like horses after a while. And he met some neighbors that helped him along. His dad's friend and neighbor helped him and gave him his first rope, which he wanted to learn heading. But as a joke, the guy gave him a heeling rope because little did he know that's what mostly ranchers do. But he set out to be a team roper, so his neighbor set him up with an instructor to teach him about roping, the spoke, the tail, the Honda or the Hondo, whatever they say in certain parts of the country, and the loop. And he never forgot certain things, but the instructor didn't think that he could make it, so they parted ways for a while. And the man worked in between his father's business and the farm, and his father had 2 broken ankles, so his son drove him from Jersey City to Central Jersey, and he would work in the office sometimes. Sometimes he would work the grounds in the condominiums, and he was getting burnt out, so he just worked on the farm, and he couldn't figure out what to do with the horses. He couldn't ride a lick. So he's sitting in the pasture, and they eventually came up to him because he sat there so long, and he would touch them, get them used to him, and he eventually got to touch them, and then he rubbed their body, their neck, where the saddle was, by their feet, and they eventually got used to his touch. So he figured he'd try to get on, and he got on and fell lots of times, but eventually got his balance. And with no bridle, no saddle, just stayed on. And eventually rode in the state park and rode, and then the instructor came back, got all mixed up, and he didn't know what to do. So things just were very distraught for the young man. And after his father died, he couldn't really hold on to the farm. He had a boarding business, and he couldn't really do much. He wasn't making enough money for the taxes, so one of the boarders introduced him to a bull riding school in southern Jersey, and he rode there about 20 times and fell 20 times on his head. his instructor was really good and kept him safe, but he didn't think, he said, I like the guy, but I don't want him on my bulls. Anyway, all of the instructors were really good and taught him a lot of values, a lot of things, but they just didn't want him around. So he, after his father died, he lost his mind and wound up institutionalized. And then after he got out, he worked for the guy that was his instructor for a while, but that didn't work out very well. And he moved back to Georgia and worked on a farm in Florida, North Florida. So the boy went to work for him there, and they hauled about 280 cattle in a trailer from North Florida to Georgia on a Holstein farm. That's when he got his first real check and his only real check. And then things didn't work out there either. He met a guy named Shorty, and he told him he was gonna cut his balls up in the skillet and fry them in a frying pan. And the man got very afraid, but he was just joking around. Anyway, he said, I'll see you, but probably not. And he never saw the guy again. And on the farm, he had to paint with diesel fuel, burnt diesel fuel from old front loaders and stuff, and feed the steer cottonseed. That's when he first got to rope. His instructor got him to rope, and he caught 2 out of 3, but he never dallied. Anyway, he didn't make a very good impression on the instructor, so he just left the farm. His instructor stayed in Georgia, and he stayed in New Jersey for a while. And then his mother sold the farm because he couldn't pay the taxes. So he wound up in bad places again. Then when he got out, he went to Wyoming, and he was on a farm, and he went on a cattle drive, 300 cows, in pitch black. He didn't know what he was doing. He was in the front of the herd, in the back of the herd. He didn't know what he was doing, and they were whipping the cows up because the cows were so tired. It was 7 o'clock till 10 o'clock. He only made it to them, but the kids that were working with him drove until 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, they made it through the whole thing, but some he had to drive home because they had to homeschool them. So, and he would cook for them and help them with their homeschooling. So they had a bull calf in the back, and it got out. They were so tired, but the kids got him in and corralled him in, because we forgot he was in the back, and we went to get our saddles and everything. They went to get their saddles, and the calf bolted out of the truck, and they were so surprised. So the kids got him in. Anyway, the man couldn't make it on that first ranch. Somebody pulled an unloaded shotgun on him, Arapaho Indian, and one who holds a whistle, they call him. And he didn't really fit in there. So he wound up in a group home in Cody, Wyoming, for a while, and things were he just went downhill from there. But then he got out of there and went to Newcastle, Wyoming, and wound up in another group home, and things didn't work out there. So he got out of there into an apartment, and finally got another job with a rancher that worked for different brands. And it was rough, but it was firm and fair and a good job. And he learned a lot of stuff driving cows from units to units, which was a 700-mile area where they covered. It was so big they called them units. So they would drive bulls and heifers, and they even branded sometimes. He branded once at Double Dock Ranch in Cody, and then the second time in Newcastle. And it was a good experience. And he thought he'd never go back there, but he did. And the nice man let him ride his horse again, and he had a great time. Years later, after he moved to Texas to help his grandfather, and his grandfather passed away, and now he's living up the creek in Conroe Lake and peacefully fishing his days away. And I also forgot to mention he lifted up an alligator when in between, when he was living in apartments. There was a lake, and he was fishing, and he lifted up an alligator because he was tired of it taking his bait. So he lifted it up. He tried to take a picture of it just on his fishing pole, but his phone went dead. So somebody said, "Do you want me to take a picture?" And he said yes. So he went into the water and spontaneously grabbed it by the neck. He didn't think he would do that. He thought he'd just take a picture of it, but he grabbed it by the neck and picked it up. And the guy took a picture. It was very nice of the man. And now he's living peacefully with his kayak and his pole along the side of a lake where he could fish his days away.